Well, for more on Black Friday and the retail industry, I'm joined live from Charlotte by Sucharita Kodali. She's the Vice President and Principal Analyst at Forrester Research and an expert in e-commerce. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So it does seem like these Black Friday sales are now starting earlier than before and they're now lasting for at least a week. We know that Amazon has its own prime shopping days as well. Just how important are these shopping holidays to companies' bottom lines?
Well, they are definitely a disproportionate percent of the total. Any given day in a quarter is going to be probably about 1% of that quarter's sales. But when we're talking about these enormous sale festivals, what you end up with is those days being anywhere from 4 to 10% of that quarter's numbers. So they end up being relatively strong and incredibly important for retailers to get it right and to make sure that they have the right offers and that they are compelling and that they are driving consumers, whether online or to a physical store.
Now, Black Friday used to be separate from Cyber Monday, but they do seem to have merged into one continuous shopping holiday season. Are there still distinctions?
Well, they are distinctions in that the titles are very different. But the truth is that most retailers now are blending a lot of the same offers and saying that they will start either as early, sometimes as several days before Thanksgiving, and it will extend sometimes to the week after Cyber Monday. So the idea is to just capture as much as you possibly can for the consumer's proclivity to spend at all during this period of time.
Now, obviously, when you see this sense of urgency in the advertising and you look at these Black Friday sales, are they really a win for consumers? And what's the best strategy to get the best bargains?
They are absolutely a win for consumers. If it is not the deepest day of the discount, it is one of the deepest days of discounts throughout the shopping year. So consumers will often hold back and purchase things for themselves, not as gifts for the Christmas season. And they're often looking for those big ticket purchases, the electronics, the furniture, anything, often home appliances, things that they had their eye on that they are just simply waiting for the most affordable price for that particular item. So it's great for consumers. And in terms of how do you find these great offers, really there are a lot of comparison shopping sites that offer information. And it's the beauty of the internet is that it's not that difficult to go from site to site to see if somebody has, a particularly great deal on, say, an Instant Pot.
And how do you see this ongoing momentum we're seeing with these US shopping days? How does that compare to what we saw earlier this month with China's Singles Day?
Singles Day simply eclipses any shopping festival that you could possibly imagine. And there are some unique characteristics. As we heard earlier, it was, I think, $38 billion just with Alibaba alone. It's probably another $15 billion with JD, which makes it an enormous, enormous day. That's probably about 10% of all of Chinese e-commerce in one single day. So it's definitely a big deal. The Chinese retail landscape is more dominated by e-commerce than the U.S. landscape is. The U.S. consumers tend to shop more in physical stores still, so you don't see quite as big of a day online. But certainly these days are important for U.S. retailers. If they don't get it right, it is problematic. This is why when sites would crash on a day like Black Friday, it was a huge deal. It was very, very problematic for retailers. We haven't seen too much of that, fortunately, today. Some slow sites, but nothing catastrophic like in the early days of the internet.
And speaking of problems, we know that a lot of goods on U.S. shelves are imported from China, and we have tariffs that are still in place with potentially more coming up on December 15th. How is the ongoing trade war between these two countries likely to impact the overall holiday shopping season?
Well, there are a few factors to keep in mind. One is that not everything is coming from China. Certain categories like electronics, like toys, are heavily weighted in China, but a number of those retailers have front-loaded the inventory, and they actually had their manufacturers and their brands holding on to a significant portion of that inventory, and then they get them shipped as needed. So in terms of the effect in the near term, it is not clear that the shopper, the consumer in the United States is going to see the effect of the tariff yet. And it's unlikely that that consumer is going to see the effect of any tariffs in 2019. I think that it will be a different story by Q1, Q2. But for now, what we have seen is that that inventory was front-loaded, and until it cycles through the economy, the retailers aren't going to be reordering. But when they do reorder, that's when the problems will happen, and I think that will be in early 2020.
All right, thank you so much, Sucharita Kodali there, Vice President and Principal Analyst at Forrester Research.